Alright, so similar to the top 10 protagonist video, this is not a power scaling video, this is not a top 10 anime. Right now I'm going over my top 10 anime antagonists. Now, before we get into that, I want to break down the difference between an antagonist and a villain. A villain is like Doflamingo from One Piece. An antagonist is like Captain Smoker from One Piece. A villain is always going to be an antagonist, but an antagonist does not necessarily have to be a villain. That is important for this video. Also, I will say that I know that Johan from Monster and Griffith from Berserk are two big named antagonists in the anime community. I am not up on those series, so this list is not going to include them. Not saying they're not in top 10, I have not seen those series yet. Now let's get into the video. At number 10, I went with Majin Buu from Dragon Ball Z. Not Frieza, because I know a lot of people went with Frieza. Frieza actually is an excellent villain, but when I look at Majin Buu, his role as an antagonist is so important to the story. Kid Buu was revived by Bibidi. After fusing with one of the most kindest Supreme Kais in the world, you get this bigger version of Majin Buu here, who had some type of innocence to him. And this is what made him so unpredictable. This is what made Majin Buu so important to the story, because when we look at what Majin Buu was doing, Majin Buu had the power to destroy planet Earth, which we have seen already. But on the flip side, Majin Buu is healing the sight of a blind kid, developing a friendship with Hercule. These are the things that make Majin Buu, at least this version of Majin Buu, a lot more interesting. Because the power to force Goku into a Super Saiyan 3, the power to force Vegeta to really look within himself and actually blow himself up to save others. Majin Buu's role in the story is so important. Super Buu forced the Z Fighters to actually use Goten and Trunks and have them fuse into Gotenks and go into Super Saiyan 3. Then you can even look at Kid Buu, who forced Goku and Vegeta to work harder together as a duo than ever before. And let's not forget that once Buu was defeated, Buu was reincarnated as Ooh. This character is different from any other villain, any other antagonist in the Dragon Ball Z verse. At number 9, I went with esdeath from Akame Got Killed. Now, I know this is a very interesting pick, but if you're familiar with Akame Got Killed, you already know that when you look at Akame and you look at esdeath, you see the duality. You see that esdeath was somebody that in her past, her father instilled in her that only the strong survive, the weak ones will die. So she decided to become a monster, to really embrace her ice cold personality, which actually matches her imperial arms. And then on the flip side, you have Akame. Akame was known for being a monster, and she wanted to show that she's not one, that she's more human than what people think. Now throughout the series, you see that both of them are on their quest to get rid of the side of themselves that they do not like. You have esdeath throwing away her humanity to become a true monster, and then you have Akame who's trying to hide her monstrous negative side so she can become more human. And both of them actually ended up alone and fighting each other to the death. esdeath is a perfect antagonist for Akame because we know that esdeath was not really easy to predict either. esdeath had a compassionate side to her. esdeath cared about her comrades to some degree. esdeath did have a past with an agenda. She did also have feelings for Tatsumi. So there's these things that were left in throughout the series that made you think maybe there's a shot that esdeath would switch sides, and that's what kept everybody intrigued. At number 8, I went with Toguro from Yu Yu Hakusho. Now this one is a very, very interesting pick because Toguro is probably one of the most complex antagonists out there. You have somebody that was running a dojo with Genkai. The demon comes through, takes everybody out, and Toguro quickly figures out that he needs to get stronger in order to protect people. But in his quest to get stronger, he ends up losing himself, becomes super, super evil, and actually after winning his dark tournament, he decides to actually rely on demon powers in order to keep himself powerful so he does not have to lose anybody ever again. But we know that that's not the end of his story. That's not where he leaves off. Toguro had much more to say, he had much more to see, and this is why he's a perfect antagonist for Yusuke Urameshi, because when we look at their battle, Toguro was literally guiding Yusuke into becoming more powerful. He was there trying to make sure that Yusuke hated him, and this is why he took on the same role as a demon that attacked his dojo back then. Toguro wanted to see if there was another path to protect people rather than him just becoming an evil monster. He wanted to see if Yusuke can show him another way. He also knew that Yusuke was very important to Genkai. He knew all of these things, and because of this, Toguro is probably one of the most interesting antagonists we see out there because his self-guilt showed more than any anime antagonist I've ever seen. The man had a chance. Koenma gave him other options, but he decided to banish himself to 10,000 years in hell because he felt bad about the path he chose. He felt bad about what he did, but he knew that he needed to do that in order to really understand if what he did was right and if there was another way. At number 7, I went with Yoshikage Kira from JoJo's Part 4. Now, a lot of people would like to bring up right away. They say Josuke has a power to restore, Kira has a power to destroy. This is their duality and that's the end of the story. But no, what makes Kira more interesting than a Diavolo, is that Kira really operates thinking that what he does as a serial killer is normal. He truly believes that what he's doing is normal. And he sees Josuke and he sees Okuyasu and Jotaro and the others. He believes that they are the villains in his story. He thinks that they are trying to ruin his life of normalcy. And this is what makes Kira so interesting and so unpredictable, because he is on the run. They are hunting him down and he's trying to get them off of his tail. He's trying to prove that he is a normal guy. Even when he takes away a woman's husband, he comes into the situation and shows that he knows how to be somewhat of a gentleman, even though he's a mass murderer. It is crazy how different Kira is in different settings. It really makes him probably one of the most unpredictable villains we have ever seen in the JoJo verse. At number 6, I went with Meruem from Hunter x Hunter. Why? Well, Meruem is an interesting case because you're talking about somebody that was born into greatness, born as a king, born into having one of the strongest nen powers ever, and he shows his humanity. Not once, but twice. He shows it against Komugi and he shows it against Netero. Komugi is blind, but Komugi also shows that there's something that Meruem cannot be the best at. Komugi also shows that she's fearless in front of Meruem's presence. Now, this could just be because she's blind and she doesn't know how scary he is, but this is somewhat comforting to Meruem, which makes him want to stay next to Komugi even more. And this is what makes Meruem very, very interesting. When we even look at his interactions with Chairman Netero, we see that they have a profound respect for each other because they know how powerful they both are, and neither of them are afraid of each other. But Meruem is used to people being afraid of him, except for these two characters, and this is what makes him a really interesting antagonist for me. It's because where his real humanity lied, it was easy to bring out when you truly think about it. All you had to do was make sure you were not afraid of Meruem. If you wanted to be in Meruem's presence and earn his respect, you did not have to fear him. But most people feared him. Yuppie, Pito, Shiapoof, everyone was just bowing down before Meruem, fearing him because he was born into greatness as a king, but he truly didn't even understand what it meant to be a king. He didn't even know what his name was. He really wanted to have close interactions with people, but everyone was too afraid of him to even have that opportunity to do so. At number 5, I went with Askeladd from Vinland Saga, for obvious reasons. Askeladd is hands down one of the most unpredictable anime antagonists of all time. You could probably even put him at number 1 or 2 if you would like, because he's that great at being unpredictable. I mean, you have 1 minute of him destroying the beloved Thors right in front of his son Thorfinn in the most cheese way possible. He's cheating. But then on the flip side, you see that he has an honorable code, that somewhere in Askeladd's heart, he cares for whales. He cares for people. He wants to see Thorfinn get stronger. He knows that Thorfinn wants to kill him one day, and he does not care. He keeps Thorfinn around. These are things that make Askeladd kind of tough to figure out, because in the presence of a king, rather than picking one of the 2 king's choices, he offs the king's head, so he makes sure that Canute becomes royalty. Askeladd has murdered thousands of innocent people for money, but on the flip side, he's trying to save whales. He's trying to back Canute. I mean, what is it that Askeladd wants? What is his end goal? What was his end game before he passed away? And nobody was able to really truly figure it out, because you can't figure Askeladd out. Even Thorfinn, who watched his every move and tried to kill the man in his sleep, could not figure him out. At number 4, I went with Madara Uchiha from Naruto. What is there to say about Madara that you guys don't know already? I mean, Madara saw his brother die right in front of him, which gave him his Mangekyo Sharingan. He saw all the evil in the world, and because of this, he wanted to make sure that everybody did not have to go through what he went through. And this is what birthed his infamous Infinite Tsukiyomi plan on the moon, to go against everybody on the world, to put them in a genjutsu where they can be happy. But Naruto had to prove to him that this is not true happiness. This is neglecting the human experience. Humans are supposed to be going through negativity and positivity so they can grow, so they can learn, so they can truly experience real human emotions. That is the human experience. And Madara was trying to force everybody to go through what he wanted them to go through, which is against free will. So even though we understand Madara's sentiment, we get where he's coming from. He went through a lot of trash in his day and he wanted to make sure that nobody had to feel what he felt. It was the wrong way he went about it. But let's talk about him as a fighter, because as a pure fighter, Madara is top tier. I mean, Madara literally looked like a man amongst boys against all of the shinobi from multiple different villages. He was just that dude. He was powerful. The Susanoo went crazy. He had the Rinnegan and he planned everything accordingly. He had Obito working for him. The Akatsuki made sure they got all of the tailed beasts. It was just very interesting to watch how Madara really planned things out. But we have to give credit to Black Zetsu, and this is kind of what ruins Madara's legacy for me, just slightly. I would have had him just a little bit higher, but because Black Zetsu was really the character pulling the strings, it kind of just made Madara's story just a little watered down, just a little bit. Now we're getting to the top 3. And just like the top 10 protagonists video, these are interchangeable for me. They can all be number 1. This is how great they are as antagonists. At number 3, I went with Blackbeard from One Piece. When I think of Blackbeard, I think of a coin. And I think Luffy's on one side of the coin and Blackbeard's on the other. Blackbeard to me is anti-Luffy. And this is what really makes him amazing. We know the story was set from the moment they met in Jaya, but we know that Marshall D. Teach has a will of D just like Monkey D. Luffy. We know that he wants to be the king of the pirates. He's striving, but we know the differences between him and Luffy are flat out right in your face. From the moment the series starts and we see Blackbeard and Luffy putting in work, we know that Luffy cares about human life. Luffy has morals. Blackbeard has no regard for human life. He does not care who you are. He doesn't care if you are his crewmate. He doesn't care about any of that. As long as you're a means to get him to his end goal, you will be used by Blackbeard. And this is what makes him a perfect antagonist, because you really have no idea what he's going to do next. I mean, the man begs Whitebeard to be on his crew, and Whitebeard picks him up, finesses Thatch, kills Thatch for the dark fruit, leaves, then goes into level 6 Impel Down to recruit people for his crew. Then he causes the entire Marineford War with fighting Ace and all of these things, and waits it out until Whitebeard is borderline dead. Then magically arrives, takes Whitebeard's devil fruit, and bounces. Now his status is going up even more. Oh, and we can't even forget to mention that he finessed the Warlord title so he was able to move freely. This is how Blackbeard moves. Everything he does is calculated. Now he has Shiryu on his team. Shiryu needs a devil fruit. Hey, Gecko Moria, where's Absalom? It doesn't matter. We'll punk you anyway. This is what Blackbeard does. Blackbeard is a dirty fighter, but it works for him. It works for him because he has Shanks going around warning people about what's going on with him. He has Monkey D. Dragon and the Revolutionary Army moving on foot to different places. They had to escape Baltigo because their location was exposed by Burgess. I mean, Blackbeard really has the One Piece world on alert. At number 2, I went with L from Death Note. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking, well, isn't Light the antagonist? No. He's the protagonist of Death Note. The antagonist to the main character is none other than this man right here, L. L is the perfect counter for Light in every single facet. I mean, from the moment the series starts, Light is trying to use logic to hide himself. He assumes that all the detectives out there are going to be using logic to try to find him. And because he was using illogical means to kill people, he figured he would never get caught. But this man right here, he knew that there was a chance that there was something that was supernatural happening, and he never ruled it out. How many times have we heard L in the past say, well, you know, there's maybe a 6% chance that you're Kira. There's maybe a 2% chance that you're Kira. There's always some probability of him being Kira because he never ruled out the supernatural. He never ruled out the fact that there's a Shinigami out there that has the ability to kill people. And in my eyes, this was L's way of pretty much telling Light, I know you're Kira, I just have to prove it to people that wouldn't believe me. And this is what makes L dangerous. He is one of the greatest antagonists to a series ever. He really, to me, made Death Note what it is, because Light was pretty much going to be all right. I mean, Nier and Mello did their thing as well, but the only reason L lost is because he had a second Kira that he had to fight. He had to fight Misa Misa, and Misa Misa had the Shinigami eyes. I mean, what can you do against two Death Notes, one having the Shinigami eyes that's really just working for Light, and Light is still moving without making the contract with Ryuk? I mean, it's just impossible. But L did know. L knew from the beginning that Light was Kira, and the only thing that made him waver just slightly is when Light purposely lost his memory. At number 1, I went with Sosuke Aizen from Bleach. This character literally had the whole Soul Society on alert. Similar to Blackbeard, had everybody on alert, but what makes him different is that even though he's just as calculated as a Blackbeard, he finessed Ichigo from day 1. This is what makes Aizen so ridiculous. He is the reason why Ichigo was becoming how powerful he was becoming, because he wanted Ichigo to fight him. He knew that he had the power of the whole Goku. He knew all of these things, and he wanted to see if there was somebody that can face him. He wanted to see how powerful he can go, and he wanted to see if there was somebody that can reach that type of power that can push him to the edge. So he perfectly cultivated Ichigo's power, the Bankai, the Vassal Lorde. All of these things were meant to develop Ichigo as a fighter, as a Soul Reaper. And this is why Aizen to me is number 1, because we have never seen anybody perfectly finesse the main character as much as this character did right here. I mean, if Ichigo used the bathroom, I wouldn't be surprised if Aizen planned for him to do that. It was just that ridiculous how much he was planning all of Ichigo's life out for him. He is definitely number 1 antagonist for me. Now, you guys let me know down in the comment section below, who are your top 10 antagonists? I know there's some great ones from some series that I have not seen yet. We are on the road to 100K. Thank you guys so much for all the love and support. And with that, I'll see you next time. Peace.